So I told you guys in the last Palisade update video that I'd keep you up to date if any breaking information or major updates or changes were released. And here we are just 10 days later from that last update video, and we have some both positive and negative news in regards to the all-new 2026 Palisade and Palisade Hybrid. So let's go ahead and go over that information here in today's video in terms of these MSRP price increases, as well as the hybrid production, which is well underway, which is not what I was expecting as of the last video just 10 days ago. Now, quickly before we get into that information in today's video, I just want to show you some of the inventory that's currently available at my local dealership. Of course, we have a pair of limited trim levels. This particular one is finished in Ecotronic Gray, and it does have a dealer installed pinstripe. This is a dealer trade unit, so this was not installed here. But just to give you guys an idea of what something like that would look like if you're wanting to install it on the all-new generation of Palisade, I have to say it actually looks pretty darn sharp in the limited with that aftermarket pinstripe installed. But of course, we also have XRTs over here, which this is the exact same one I've showcased here on the channel. Some calligraphies down there finished in Ecotronic Gray, Classy Blue, SEL Convenience, and Black. But there's plenty of white ones around here as well, including that limited over there up on the pad. But let's go ahead and take a look at all of the information I have available, but just want to give you guys a quick rundown of what might be available at your local dealership. So getting right into the information that you're probably most concerned or interested by, and this is the price increase. As of August 28th, 2025, on or after this date, Hyundai has issued a $500 MSRP price increase across all V6 equipped Palisades. Now, what's interesting about this particular one is it says all sales orders generated on or after this date will be impacted by this $500 increase. This leads me to believe that in-stock inventory could be impacted by this $500 increase. Now, it doesn't say that 100%, and I don't know for a fact if this is actually the case, but this is the information that I have available that I'm relaying to you guys. So don't be alarmed if you're, looking at a Palisade on dealership lots or whatnot, and ultimately it is impacted by this price increase, but it also could be, future allocations that are billed and invoiced to the dealerships are impacted by this. But nonetheless, V6 Palisades $500 increase on or after August 28th, 2025 do have a price adjustment. Now, luckily, this does not pertain or relate at all to the Palisade Hybrid, so these are staying the same currently in terms of their MSRPs and are not impacted by this. And, ultimately, I would not be surprised in the future if maybe the Hybrid does get a price adjustment, but as of this point, that is not the case. Now, speaking of the Palisade Hybrid, even just 10 days ago, we didn't have much information in regards to, production and whatnot. Here we are. The week that I was actually producing and filming that last video, the Palisade Hybrids were indeed already in production. And ultimately, at the end of that week, around August 22nd, 2025, the first handful of Palisade Hybrids were actually loaded and are currently being shipped on their way from Korea here to the United States. 57 units are appearing to be on the very first boat of Palisade Hybrids, and actually one of those units is destined to come right here. So I am very excited for that just a handful are on the very first boat, and ultimately they are rolling out in mass in terms of production. I think there's nearly 1,000 of them built and ready to be loaded on future ships to the United States. Now, also on that exact same ship and that same week, the first Palisade SEL Premium 7-passenger V6 vehicles are also on their way to the United States, and this is far less. There's only about 10 Palisade SEL Premiums on that same ship that are on their way to the United States. So very cool to see that. The week of August 25th, so the current week that I'm filming this a few days ago, the very first Palisade SEL Hybrid 8 passengers also have been built and are scheduled for production. So there are 8 passenger configurations of Palisade luckily being built at the moment. However, there are no V6 8 passengers being built at this time. So if you're waiting on one of those vehicles, it seems like it is still going to be a little bit of a wait in terms of the 8-passenger V6 versus the Hybrid, which at least the SEL Premium 8 passengers are scheduled and being built. The standard SEL 8-passenger hybrids don't appear to be being scheduled and built quite yet, as no SELs are, in fact. So if you're waiting on a standard SEL, that is not going to actually be available quite yet. I guess that is basically the most up-to-date information that I currently have on Palisade V6 pricing and Palisade Hybrid production and availability. Now, as I mentioned, the very first 57 units are on a vessel on their way to port of Washington or wherever they are in the northwest corner of the United States. So this means the timeline of Palisade Hybrid availability at dealerships, likely for the first handful of units, has been moved up significantly from the last video that I have actually showcased for you guys. So if we're following the roughly 8 to 9 week timeline from production all the way to arriving at dealerships, this puts us at the early October to mid-October timeframe of seeing the very first Palisade hybrids for sale and ultimately hopefully being delivered to customers. So this is exciting. Originally I was thinking late November was going to be a realistic timeline, maybe even December, and now some Palisades will be ultimately available probably in the month of October, 100%. I don't foresee any of them being available in September. But, who knows? Maybe they'll rush them and, all things like that. But I think October, middle of October to the end of October is definitely a safe bet at this point in time as to seeing the very first Palisade hybrid content here on YouTube. Also, one last thing I want to bring up in terms of the pricing is now the difference between a V6 Palisade and a hybrid Palisade is now just $1,720 versus the former $2,220 that it was when this vehicle launched. So, now there's a less of a difference between a V6 and a hybrid, which might push people, to wait and want the hybrid a little bit more so than that of the V6. Of course, I do have my very first driving impressions on the channel of the V6. I hope to be invited by Hyundai to the Palisade Hybrid event later this fall. If you're watching, please invite me. I would love to be at attendance for that particular event and show you guys my first impressions and first reactions of the vehicle. But nonetheless, the Palisade Hybrid is much more efficient, much more powerful. Does lose a little bit of second row legroom, believe it or not, because of the battery placement underneath the chassis and the floor. But I am very excited for the Palisade Hybrid and the fuel economy that they're promising, roughly 34 mpg combined versus this vehicle's, which right around 20 mpg combined, so a huge increase there. And 600 miles on a full tank is pretty impressive as well if you like to do a lot of road trips. But overall, that is going to be the information that I have currently available on the 2026 Hyundai Palisade price increase, as well as the hybrid information. If you guys enjoyed this video and or found it helpful, make sure to hit that like button below, subscribe if you haven't already, check out additional coverage and content I have already posted on the brand new Palisade. And with all being said, I hope to see you guys in the next one.